AGam in Kansas is brought to you in part by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
So all the corn in Kansas is getting really close to maturity. One of the symptoms, just to see when the corn is at maturity, we check our corn ears and we tend to see at the bottom of the ears if the black layer has been formed. What is the point of having the black layer? It means that that plant is unconnected to the grains, so the grains are reaching the maximum weight, and from that point until harvest, the only thing that the grains are doing is just losing moisture. One of the very things interesting that we have on this season was about the corn yield forecast project. And this is an effort that is being conducted and coordinated by Nebraska, University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And the main thing is that we have 10 different states all across the US Corn Belt, collaborating, trying to detect yield potential and yield forecast. So if you look at the Kansas, specifically, at this point, all the corn around the state is reaching maturity. Most of the dryland corn is looking really good. I think that we are near or above the average for the last 25 years. And if you look at some of the corn under irrigation, irrigation conditions, I think that we are most of the times near 10 plus 20 bushels above the average. There are some scenarios, some areas about southeast Kansas that we probably be a little bit below the average. We are probably cutting around 115, 120 bushels. In some areas that they were delayed, or they were late planted, or they were very flat and they lost nitrogen, we probably are below the expected yields. But in general, when you're looking at the Kansas, I think that we are looking at a crop corn that is very well done at this moment, and I think that we are looking to average yields, so they probably be at least 10 bushels, above the average that we have for the last kind of a long-term trend on the corn yield history. So that's one of the main points and one of the most interesting things that we have on corn. The idea of the forecast is to continue this, to try to provide to farmers different tools on how to predict yield potential and how to decide management practices in order to really, go together with that kind of a yield potential. In some areas of the state, we were seeing this growing season that at the beginning was a little bit challenging on the planting time. We have a very wet spring. Corn was in some way, in some areas, staying behind, lack of uniformity. When we were reaching flowering around mid-July or late July, we were seeing that corn was recovery at some point. The main thing that we were seeing in some areas is nitrogen that was lost via precipitation, leaching process. So some of the corn in some flat areas was basically a little bit behind because of that lack of nitrogen, which was one of the main points in this season. Uniformity, as I mentioned before, was compensated, so the plants in some way they were compensating. One of the things that we are seeing at this point, we did see some issues in some of the stress corn, the corn that was late in the season, and the plants that were quite behind, some of the corn that was large, some of the corn that is breaking in the stalks. Some of that situation can occur in some specific fields because there is a lack of sufficient sugars in the plant. So when the plant is mobilizing this sugar to the grains in order to fulfill that demand, the plant is in some way emptying, in some way, all the capacity that we have in the stems. And those stems are very susceptible to any lodging issues. For all farmers is to make sure that you prioritize and put first things into first place. Corn that is under very susceptible situations need to be harvested first, and then some of the rest of the corn can be keep going harvest in the next coming days. So that's one of the key issues that we are facing, and I think that it's important for the farmers to go out and scout our corn fields.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.